Hi, Team Flyer. How are you today? We are back once more with Nicky Nieves. Hi, Nikki.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. I really am. I'm enjoying the all the fall weather we're having, of course, and just happy to chat with you again. To be honest, and happy
Me
to have had
too.
you all month long. I get really excited talking to you.
Me too. So casual. I love it.
It's true that it's kind of like, that homey feeling. And because,
Yeah.
we're all quarantined and we all miss our friends in our social life, this just kind of brings another feel to it. I hope. At least I hope. That's the intention. And
Yeah. Well, I
that's
get
what
it
I
on
keep
my
hearing.
end. So,
That's good. It's kind of like, well, comfortable. And, all you need is like a little wine or just water or whatever it is that you drink,
yeah.
pretty much have it. Um, So before we start, we were talking about this before we started recording. I on my end have a little bit of background noise because that's Zoom Live for us. We've been recording from home, most of us, if not all of us, I think. And sometimes life gets a little bit challenging. So I'm sorry if it's a little bit background noise, but you bear with us. You've been here before. You know the 401. And that's the first disclaimer. And the next thing is not a disclaimer. The thing is finally, we're going to go start talking about you and today's topic. So, without further ado, of course, we did have you all month long talking about walking your worth, which was such an empowering kind of episode and message on a whole. Your nonprofit. Remind us the name of your nonprofit, please.
Limitless People Incorporated.
I love it. I love it because every time that you say it, you're like your face lights up. It's like every time I say it, they always believe. I'm like, so what's the name of your company? They always believe her. And like your face.
Like your little baby.
Exactly, it is. We talked about, of course, Black Lives Matter and the importance of that movement in particular and everything that you're going through and we're all going through this year, and with a lot of wise words in that episode as well. And today, very exciting for me, I guess. I don't know if I'm the only one. I don't think I am. I've heard a lot of the comments. I don't think I'm the only one excited to talk about aging as a professional woman in sport. So, of course, before we start, once more, tell us a little bit about yourself, just in case this is the first episode they hear and they're like, oh my God, who is Nicky Nieves? So tell us.
My name is Nicky Nieves. I am a professional athlete. I play for Team USA in sitting volleyball. And I won a gold medal in Rio. I have a blog by the name of Life as Nikki that just says everything that tales of my life and the ups and downs and in between. And I have a nonprofit by the name of Limitless People Incorporated. And its goal is to provide volleyball opportunity and community outreach to everyone, regardless of age, race, physical ability, financial ability, you name it.
Woohoo! I love your roll call. It's like I do this and I do that, and you're a gold medalist, and then you have like what's called a nonprofit, and I adore talking to you so much. I feel like you get my excitement every time. I'm like, oh my God, it's Nicky Nieves. I swear. So, you mentioned in the very first episode and how you are blossoming into a young woman at age 30 and how you love that. You told us in the second episode a little bit behind the scenes special about your professional career and um, how you got to where you are today and growing older, even though you're still quite young. It is still your birthday month as well, of
Mhm.
course. 30 or over 30 is still a key age when it comes to sports. So tell us a little bit why, or the main difference basically on, because 30 is still young. It's like outside sports. I mean, we're
Yeah.
very young. We're still able to like do whatever we want still. And we talked about it in previous episodes, of course, that we just take time differently, or we take life differently now. We're become parents much later in life. We're able to explore more.
Yeah.
But when it comes to sports, what happens more or less around this particular age?
Yeah. What I've realized is that longevity in sitting volleyball is a little different. I call it the turnover rate, even though it's not really turnover. I hate it, but it's the best way to describe it. As in, if you look at, we'll say, traditional indoor volleyball, a lot of the time you're playing, you go through maybe like mid 20s and you start to phase out. For sitting volleyball, your longevity, you can go all the way up to like your 50s and your 60s, which is really, really cool. And for sitting volleyball, I feel like everyone kind of hits their prime differently depending on when you started. However, I feel like when you start young, so let's say like teens, even early 20s, personally, I feel like you start to hit your prime in your 30s because now you've had enough time or you've played enough to where you can kind of like gauge what you're good at, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I know I'm an all-around good player, but I specialize in hitting a cut shot or moving a certain way or serving a certain way. So I feel like your 30s, just like on the outside world, it's not old, you know, like you're hitting your prime, you know what your body needs. And now your body's changing so much to where like you can't function off of like 2 hours of sleep anymore, like in your young, like 20s. So I feel
Been
like
there.
now,
I am right there with you. I mean, I do love my
yes,
sleep, but now it's like, oh, I need more sleep. Okay.
I need it.
I need rest
Yes.
to
So now
function.
it's like you're taking into account everything because your body's changing. So not only are you in your prime, you're like, okay, how much water am I getting in a day? How am I eating? Like how much sleep am I getting? You're logging everything. So in that aspect, it's great because now you're just like, you're getting there, you're becoming an awesome player. But then on the flip side, it's like, okay, I am in my 30s. If you haven't, if you're not married yet, if you are not in a serious like relationship, like all of the things that 30-year-olds have outside of sport, you start to assess where you are within that walk of life. And for a long time, it was kind of difficult for me just because I was like, I'm 30, I should have this and this and that. And I should, you know, have the white picket fence and my little girl with pigtails that's just like me. And you know what I mean? But then I like compare my life and my circle within my volleyball community, and we're all on the same page. You know what I
That's so
mean? So it's,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So like for a while I would compare, and literally the thing that like reels me back in to stop feeling bad is like, look at yourself, look at your teammates, look at the friends that you've made within sitting volleyball, like even in other countries. And I'll give Brazil and Canada as an example because like those girls are my friends, and their lifestyles, you know what I mean? And them like acquiring things later on in life. But for all of us, volleyball still very much isn't like the forefront and medals and competition and just growing the Paralympic sport in a whole and the movement. So it makes you feel better about like your choices. Not to say that like me thinking about like getting married and having a kid isn't on my brain, like it just poof goes away. Not at all. But like it's just nice knowing that like I like my community thinks the same way as I do.
I think that's actually a wonderful thing because even though comparing is not necessary at all, it is
Mhm.
still nice to feel that sense of community. It's what we always talk about in a lot of our different episodes, including the nonprofit one. Just in general, community is such an important factor.
Yeah.
And I feel very inspired by that story as well, in the sense of like, look at the people who have the same lifestyle as me, because that's where
Hmm.
it gets tricky. You're because you automatically compare yourself to someone who has a completely different start, completely different goals,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my god, like she's my age, she has 3 kids. I'm like, maybe she always wanted to be a mom. I mean, maybe you also wanted to be a mom, but maybe her priority was that was her priority. Whereas with you, it's like, no, volleyball is my priority first, and then we'll figure
Yeah.
the rest out. That's why she has 3 kids. You
Yeah.
know?
And her life just allows it. Like when I think about it, I'm like, oh, so and so just bought a house, just got married, just has a kid. And not to say that like my life doesn't allow it, but like where I'm at, I have to do a lot of shifting in order to allow those things. And because volleyball is my number one priority, I don't feel comfortable shifting volleyball to put something else in front of it.
And that's so important to realize as well, not only because you're a sports player, of course, sports person. I don't even know the technical name, to be honest, but you're a sports, you're in sports.
Sport person.
Sport person, I like that. You're a sports person. Um, this is my childlike nature, I swear, coming out. Like, I'm 5-year-old, like, inventing words. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know this technical word. But because you're in sports, it's quite different, of course, because the lifestyle is a whole different world. Never better said, I think, again. You know?
Yeah.
I think your priorities are different. Your just everything, because everything that what you were explaining in the previous episodes, your whole life revolves 365 around the sport. The amount of times you've missed out on events because you were really focused on your sport because those are your goals, and you got to take advantage of the time of your life right now, or the prime time of your life right now, that you're able to play to your best of your
Mm-hmm.
capacities. Because if not, you're like, well,
Yeah.
then what was the last 15 years of my life for? Like, I need to play
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah. The club just got good. I don't want to get out.
Exactly. It's like I'm here all night and all day tomorrow. Like, I'm still here bumping.
Yeah.
Um, I know it's tricky. One of my next questions is like when to start a family. Like, that's $1 million question. I think for you, for me, for like anybody, of course.
Yeah. Um. So here's the weird thing. I'm like, it's gonna sound really crazy. So in volleyball, we think of everything in quads. So like every 4 year, the 4 year cycle, leading up to the games. And every year there's a major tournament. So we'll say right after Rio, we had 2017 is like your zonals where you're just playing people within your zone. 2018 is Worlds, going against everybody in the world. 2019, something called Pan American Games. And it's your zone, so it's North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. But it's like a mini Olympics and Paralympics. So you live in a village. There's tons and tons of other sports. You compete, and then after that one you have the games, so it's kind of like your prepper for the games, but it's still really serious. You medal. All of these events, like your big tournament a year, you gain points at, and these points are like your world ranking. So with all of that being said, the way that my team, at least I do, but I've spoken with various of my teammates, we kind of think this way. The way that we look about starting a family is, when can I do it? Like what year and during which tournament? So like which one will um I don't want to say not be missed, but it's okay if I sit this one out because it's an easier tournament for us, for lack of better words.
Exactly.
And when do I need to be back? So for us, literally, if you want to have a baby, you need to get pregnant during the games or right after when you get home, because your best bet is to have the baby during the first year, so during zonals, because that's our easier championship, because you need to be back by Worlds.
Exactly. So it's not, I mean, it's
Yeah,
either
it's
crazy or weird,
crazy.
because like it is your world, and this is why I'm always so intrigued, because I love sports and I love knowing everything about them, which I always find it funny to me because I'm like, I don't really watch them as often as one would think, but I'm always intrigued to see what happens behind the scenes because you train so much. So people are like, it's you've had it, and like you said it in the previous episodes, I swear. It's not only, oh, you show up for the Olympics and that's it. You only train that 1 year and that's it. It's like, no,
Yeah,
you just said you're blocked every 4 years, and
yeah,
so on and so forth. So of course.
yeah. And there's just like so many like little things that go in with it. So like, for example, like I start on my team. So now I'm thinking, if I have a baby, somebody else has to fill my position because I'm a starter. Okay, cool. But now it's like, I have my baby, I push out my baby, and now, because volleyball is important, and I mean, kids, I love kids. If I had a baby, my baby would get my time, love, and affection. But at the same extent, like if I'm planning to go back, now I'm like, okay, when can I get back to training? And when do I get back in it enough to prove that me having my baby didn't diminish my skills, so I can get back in my spot? You know what I mean? Because of course, even though it's a team sport, we all love each other, we're all super competitive. So now the person that took your spot is like fighting hard to prove that they're worthy of that spot while you're out. So then you're coming back and you're like, okay, let me fight again so I can try and get my spot back. No shade, no tea to the person that took my spot, but I want my spot back. Like, I want to play. You know what I mean? So it's like little things that like kind of like play like a big factor. Or like, are you okay just having your baby and sitting out for a while? And then you run the risk of okay, I did it. And that's another thing, even though it's an easier year to like sit out and have your baby, because I sat out and because somebody else played really well, will I not roster for the next event? Like, you know what I mean? So now the person that took my spot showed that they're so good and so important. Now it's like, okay, does my coach not see any more need to take me to the next event for the next year for Worlds? You know what I mean? So it's kind
Yeah.
of it's a brain tease.
It really is. It's just, it is so many factors that go into that, I swear. It leaves me kind of speechless because you deal with a lot more than people who are in sports, basically, than the rest of us. Because even for us, it's
Yeah.
complicated because, especially, we're businesswomen. We have really good professional careers. We're at the top of our game. We really want to do more. We love what we do. Stopping for a kid sounds kind of like, not mandatory by any means, but you're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to just stop for a kid. I want to like actually, want, desire, and be ready for it,
Yeah.
rather than like it's just a pit stop. That's what I'm trying to say.
And that's how,
Like,
like, for me, I'm like, that's how I know, like, I'm not ready. Because if I'm thinking about it as in terms of, like, oh man, okay, I gotta stop. Let me, you know what I mean? When it should be
yeah, like
something that I'm just like, I'm happy about. And I'm like, I'm taking a year off because I'm gonna have my baby and like so
ex-
excited about it. But I'm
exactly.
not. I'm like, oh, my spot, and I'm dreading. And how quick can I go like back to working out? And how fast will my snapback be? And like, I'm gonna work out until like, you know what I mean? And like, I've had teammates that they like one of them played till she was like 6 months. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I don't know. It's a lot.
It is. That leads up to like the next kind of question or commentary, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, giving up on traveling and yourself to settle down and get married is a huge step and life change, of course. Um, Still changing because I know a lot of couples with kids who travel tons and even move every so often to see the world. Give their kids kind of that lifestyle.
Yeah.
You ever feel that pressure as well?
Um, I don't feel pressure to settle down. Meaning, like when I think settle, I think of like, oh, you can't fly off every 2 seconds anymore. Like now you have to sit there. And like my family said it, like, oh, when like you get married, you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna go spend 3 weeks away. Like you can't do that. And like that makes me so angry because I'm like, I refuse. I'm not staying in one spot. So it doesn't freak me out because I have told myself that like when I date, when I get in serious situations, I'm like letting it be known that like I want someone that wants to travel as well. I know that in some capacity it's gonna change because you're married. So I know that like it's not only about me, you know what I mean? Like before when I don't know if I had mentioned it before, but I was like, "Oh, I did like something for Citibank because I had a contract." And they flew us out to Dubai. And afterwards, I was like, oh, I'm gonna just stay out there and fly here and here and here and here. You know what I mean? So I know like things like that. I just can't do that anymore. You know what I mean? Like I just could be like, oh, hey, honey, like I'm just gonna stay out in Europe. Like it's cool. So I know like little things like that I can't do. But as far as like still traveling and still playing, I have every intention to still do it. And I and I even like spoken with my mom about it. Like when I have a baby, and I'm still playing, I will pay for your ticket to come so you can take care of the baby wherever I go because it's still my life for right now. Like I said, things can change. But I still like having my child is very important and I don't want it to be like I'm just leaving my baby back in the States with my mom. Like, no, I want my baby with me and I'm gonna take my mom with me. And hopefully, look, God, hear me out. I'm speaking out loud, universe, hear me out. Hopefully, I have a husband that like is understanding to that and can travel sometimes to see me play as well, and even in some circumstances, like I have my mom and my husband and my baby, you know what I mean? So it's just the whole word settle is just, I don't like it. Let's just kick it out.
I
Like,
I agree with you in that sentiment. We
yeah.
get asked that so many times. So when are you guys gonna settle down? And I'm like, who said anything about settling? Like, why is that a thing? Um, just
Seriously.
everything comes at its pace, basically, whether you want to have kids or not, of course. and we're travelers. Like, we're excited to move once more upcoming next year, and then even within that, we're like, we don't think the next place is going to be our final place, even though we still have to try it out, for example, of course. But we're just want a different kind of lifestyle. We love Europe. I've talked about this in many episodes. I know you've gone to Spain, and we talked really
Yeah.
briefly about it as well. So it's like, traveling is still really big for us, and settling down, we just don't know. Yeah, we don't want to jump around like with our kids, as in like for their benefit, of course. So we
Yeah.
understand that, and that's another thing that we also have in question. We're like, okay, we don't want to move them around every 2 years because it's not fair for them, but still enough times for them to have a different culture and lifestyle, and for us to feel
Yeah.
like we're still seeing the world and we're still being ourselves, So
Yeah.
it's tricky. It really is. That actually leads up to like one of my next questions, for example, is that, our generation, we've talked about this once again in previous episodes because you've been with us all month long, is currently changing and evolving things.
Mm-hmm.
We decide to get married and settle down in our 30s versus in our like
Yeah.
20s, like it was before. We're just starting to do this now, and then to then imagine like future generations is impressive. Since we are the change, how do you think this is affecting us mentally through like all of this? Since we did grow up with the society telling us to get married sooner, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Um, I feel like it helps us because it gives us more of a sense of independence. I feel like they got married younger because it was pushed to have that nuclear family. Like, you have to have the nuclear family, you have to depend on your family. Like, it was just everything is centered around your family, which is fine because I still feel that way. Like, I still care about my family and contributing any way I can. However, I am independent. I can do things on my own. I can go and get what I want by myself. You know what I mean? I don't I hate when people are like, "Oh, like they take, having a family and being married, and like they stick a woman in that role, like, that little box, like, okay, so even once you get married, you can, like I said, you can't be flying around whenever you want to. You got to cook every single day for your husband. You got to make sure, being a Latina, like, those are the things that, like, they're like ingrained in you. Like, take care of your husband, you got to take care of your household, you got to cook every day, you got to, girl, what? Like,
no,
no,
thank you. No, not even
no.
like, nope.
I'll admit, I'm a sucker for love. So when I'm in a relationship, I love you. Like, let me take care of you. What do you need? But it's out of love. It's not out of I'm supposed to do this.
There you go.
And
That's
I've
the
said
biggest
it all the
difference.
time. You know what I mean? Like, I will, and my mom says, oh, it says in the Bible. I know it says in the Bible, I'm gonna take care of my household because that's me. However, I'm not gonna allow someone to tell me I need to cook every day. I need to like bow at my man's feet. You know what I mean? Like little things like that.
Do you
So,
still get that influence because you're Afro-Latina, because you're Catholic, sorry?
um, well, I'm Pentecostal. Um,
Thank you for that.
I feel like sometimes, yes, the people that are around me are pretty much aware that in some areas, let me backtrack. In some areas, they're aware that things are changing within our generation. So they'll say things knowing that like I have like a rebuttal every time. Like, I'm not, no, I don't think so. Um, but it's not as prevalent now as it was when I was younger. Because I feel like when I was younger, I heard it all of the time and what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it. And then like you see different situations and you're just like, why can't the husband help just sweep one time? Like, it's not gonna kill him. Or vacuum or cook or give the wife a day off. Like, you know what I mean? And now because our generation is changing and they see it, people will still say those kind of things, but it's not as much, you know what I mean? And they kind of like think too, like, oh, well, no, it's not bad for your husband to help you. No. I mean, you don't got to be stuck in one place. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's just one of those things where, like I said, you just got to keep using your voice. Like, no. And then, like, because we're getting married in your 30s, trying to break the stigma of something's wrong with you. because you're getting married later. Or what, you know what I
Preach.
mean? Or what did the woman do? What's wrong with her? Oh, is it her attitude? Is it because she does this? Oh, and she's just like that. That's why she don't has a husband. You know what I mean? Like breaking the stigma. Like, no, she probably doesn't have a husband because she really, really loves to work and she travels a lot, and that's just not her interest right now. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, like checking your uterus. Like I had a cousin tell me a month ago, like, oh, so when are you gonna start having babies? I was like, so when are you gonna stop clocking my uterus? Like, you
Take
gonna have
that for
these
a step
babies for
back.
me so I can keep playing volleyball? Like, sir, what? So I don't know. It's just little chains that fall in that box and then like breaking it. And I mean, like I said, like they're realizing that things are changing, but just continuing to like be the demonstration and lead by example that, you know, it's okay. I'm independent. I can change my tire. I I can change my oil. I can mow the grass. Like, you know what I mean? Like doing things independently to show that it's okay. Like it's okay. It's okay that I'm not married right now. It's perfectly fine.
Oh my goodness, I love your spunk so much. This is why I enjoyed every single of our conversations. It's so good though, your commentaries. But it's just like I can change my own oil, thank you very much. It's like
Yeah, I'm
preach.
like when my
But
father
it's
goes to
true.
Puerto Rico, I'm the one that's like cutting the grass and using the trimmer. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm doing like everything.
You go,
I'm cool.
girl.
I
That's
like the
what
man.
exactly.
Yeah, but I don't need it. Like,
That's the thing, because I completely agree with you because I love how you said like we're more independent, and I'm thrilled to have gotten married in my 30s. I'm thrilled I didn't take the leap in my early 20s with that so-called ex-boyfriend. Well, it's an ex-boyfriend now, obviously, but it's a boyfriend that moment
yeah.
because because life was telling me to and society was telling me to. I'm like, no, I waited 10 years after and I made my life my own and I made my own business and I took my own self back to school, and I was single for a really long time on purpose because I was like, let me go find myself and let me go fall in love with myself first. I mean, I'm still in the process of
Yeah.
falling in love with myself even more, but point being, it's like independence, you
Yeah.
know?
Let me take care of home first. My home, my body, my mental health, my
Exactly.
physical health. Yeah.
And then we'll get into it and everything. I mean, for me it's very different because like I can tell you off the bat, like it's always going to be 50-50. I was always very like headstrong, like no, everything's 50-50, and if anyone gets spoiled, it's me. No, I mean, he also gets spoiled, of course, because I'm much like you. I love to like take care of him, of course, and take care of people in general.
Yeah.
But it's 50-50. I mean, he's the one who does all the cooking, for example. I mean, you cannot catch me in the kitchen.
See,
Like,
it's
I just go
possible
get
for those of
water.
you out there listening. It's
It
possible.
is.
He's
It
out there.
is. Oh, trust me, it is. And he does the laundry, and I mean, because we all bring different factors in different moments in our lives, including our lifestyle and our home life.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a given anymore. Thank gosh that it's oh, the woman has to do everything. I'm like, no, and I would have never been in a relationship like that. Oh goodness, I'm going off to the next question before we continue to ramble on, because it's just I love this conversation so much because it's needed. Just needed to hear that. I needed to hear what you said as well, as in nothing's wrong with us, people. Nothing is like we're
Yeah.
okay. We're normal. Like we're good. We're good.
Seriously.
Oh my gosh. So going back into the sports world, you had a few train of thoughts that are different from the rest of the world, of course, non-sports players, um, who have just a corporate or entrepreneurial life,
Yeah.
that team dynamic, like what you were saying, taking that break when you get pregnant, your replacement, like, going back to it and all that sorts of things. You set a few examples. Do you have anyone right now in your life going through the same change, or they're all kind of just waiting and postponing?
Um, no. I mean, my teammates have pretty much had all their kids for right now. Um, and the same thing, they like planned them. Like, I think Kaleo had hers right after. I think she got pregnant right after Rio. So yeah, the same thing. Like they planned them. I know. Um, one's about to. Well, two are about to get married. So same thing. They'll probably, if they're thinking about babies, it'll probably be right after Tokyo. But for the most part, we're all kind of just like hunkered down, especially with like all of COVID and stuff that's happened.
Yeah, that was my
Um,
follow-up question because I know this year must be really different.
yeah, I mean, it's changed everything, even like family planning, you know? My teammate, I'm pretty sure she wanted to get married pregnant right after Tokyo. And she's getting married in November. But now everything's kind of changed. So now the games are next year and she's still getting married. So it's
Exactly.
just like like
You have
two,
to wait
like
another
taking
more year? Yeah, exactly. Which is
yeah,
also a
like
big gap.
changing your plans. So
How
yeah, everything's huh?
how did they come back? Because you were talking about, like once you take a break for the baby, give birth, you're with the baby, and then when they
Yeah.
come back into the sport, how was it like for them to come back?
Um, from what I saw, for Kaleo, so she's the younger one out of the two. We have two with babies. She I know that like I said, it's a brain tease. I know that like it mentally affected her, just knowing that like I just took this time off. Now I'm trying to get back into it because she's our setter. But from what I could see, she like eased her way back into it, and she didn't rush because I feel like it would have been detrimental if she was just like full force. I need to be where I was before. And same thing with the other one, Laura. She has three babies. And for her, life was a little different. So she's a cancer survivor. She wasn't sure if she could have babies, and I mean, who could blame her? She was like, "If I got a baby, I'm having a baby now." So
Exactly.
yeah, so she did. And for a while, like she would come to camp and she would like bring the baby, and I'm just like, where else could you find this? Like the baby's like in a like it's not the bassinet, like the playpen while we're like playing, you like see like the little baby's head. Or
Oh.
like our coach would like bring somebody to like come and babysit because ultimately like that's another thing too, like ultimately like we don't get paid a lot. And she lives in New York. So for her to get a babysitter is really expensive. And then if you factor in we're traveling at least once a month. If it's a year before the games, we are literally all over the place. Um, and sometimes we'll like, if for example in China, we can be there for 2 weeks. So yeah, she has a husband, but he's still working. And now she has her kids, and now you're paying a babysitter for 2 weeks to take care of the kids. You know what I mean? So all of that stuff kind of adds up. So like for camps and stuff, she'd like bring the kids, which I mean, I'm like, I can't blame her. At the end of the day, like you gotta make it work. But yeah, it was difficult for her just because bringing the baby, traveling. Um, in a sense, she doesn't get a break because even like if you think about it, we're at camp, we're there grinding, working hard. At the end of the day, it's just like a mental just decompress, like just take everything off, take a load off, and just relax and kick it with your teammates and go to sleep. To whereas that didn't exist for her. She has the baby, she's taking care of the baby. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah, it's an
a
ongoing
whole
process. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it's another element that's added to like just the pressures of camp and like trying to train. And I don't know, it's just our situation is just really really unique, and it's cool to have seen like two of them, like two different ones. And I also feel like I love Laura to death, so look, I can say these things. I also feel like with her it was kind of like the test run, and I say that because it was like how how are we going to do this? How is this going to work? How are you going to bring the babies? And to be 100% honest, because I love transparency, not everyone was so receptive of her wanting to start a family and having babies because everybody was dialed into being an athlete and this is what we need and we need to win this and blah, blah, blah. And they kind of felt like it was a betrayal. Like, how dare you want to start a family and have kids? So on that front, it wasn't always kind of like a welcoming thing for her, you know what I mean? And for a while it made me angry, and I say that she was like the test run because then we had another team, and then Cleo had her babies, and the shift and the growth as a team played a big role because now we've gotten to like be transparent with each other and say like, and really realize that like not everybody's commitment looks the same. Yes, we all want a gold medal. Yes, we all want to be like the top team in the world. We want to set the bar. We want to be the bar. But my dedication and my sacrifice, you have to trust that I'm giving all that I can, even when it doesn't look like yours. You know what I mean? And I feel like later on, like within the past few years, we've come to realize that and accept that, and just come to really like accept each other for who we are. To whereas like when it was just her having the babies and like trying to have her family and balance, like she was a superwoman, like having her babies, training, in school, like finishing her bachelor's degree, and her husband's still working. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot. And then traveling, bringing your babies with you to camp because you can't leave all of the kids there. So now she's like taking the youngest one, leaving the two oldest. Sometimes her mom would come, or like a family member would come and like babysit when my coach couldn't find somebody. And then on top of that, you know, you're getting some backlash from some of your teammates because they feel like you're betraying them. Like that was a lot. It was a lot. So it's just, I don't know. It's been interesting to see like our team evolve. I know for me, sometimes I do still get a little bit angry because for me, I'm like, it's not fair. Like, her babies should have been loved on equally as any other baby that's been around. We had another teammate that had a baby too. She's retired now. But that, you know, she lived there as a resident and she would bring the baby to practice. But for me, I'm just like, these are all our teammates. Yes, we have different relationships with each and every one of them, but I feel like don't take your anger out, or like you're like, oh, how could you? Like you're feeling a betrayal out on the baby. Like I feel like they all could have been loved equally. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. So like with her babies, like they always got like special love for me just because like I felt like sometimes people were just like being mean. Like you don't have to
For
be.
literally no reason.
Yeah, so like they were like my little babies, and one of them I named Chubs because he was like really chubby when he was a baby. Like hold them and play with them and like kiss on them. But yeah, like no, it's definitely a wild ride having babies when you're a professional athlete. Like it's men don't have to worry about any of this. They just, oh, my wife's pregnant, I'm still gonna go. I don't have to worry about any of it. I mean, even my God, even pumping, like her pumping and freezing them and like sending some back and bring it. Like that girl went through a lot. Like
Kudos to her. My gosh.
yeah,
All the love. All the love to her and her 3 babies.
yeah,
That's definitely what I always call a go to fly story. Someone who really is inspiring and overcomes so many struggles and obstacles. Because holy moly, and I don't understand the backlash as well. Or like you're a human being as well, and especially
yeah.
if you're a woman. You're like you should understand because you're a
But that's
woman
the
too.
thing
You know
though.
what I
Like
mean?
I feel
Like
like you would think like we should understand, but because our world is so different, and because like I'll just say it, we were really closed-minded. Now we're a lot better. I feel like free to like express myself and to talk about things now. But back then, like no, like you live, eat, die, breathe by volleyball.
is that something that
And
you think happens? Sorry to interrupt you. I'm so sorry, but I'm like, do you think it's something that happens when you're younger within the profession? I mean.
younger and you haven't experienced the other side. And I say that because there's a huge difference between being a resident athlete and being an athlete that lives outside, having to find the resources to do so and living a regular life. So, like when you're a regular athlete or a resident athlete, you literally, and this is what I love about it, because now I get to go back, woohoo. My only concern is literally playing volleyball, training, eating right, hydrating. That's my only concern. If I don't give 100% being a resident athlete, there's something wrong because I have housing provided for me, I have utilities provided for me, internet, like literally, and they're like apartments. They're only like, there's only 2 people to an apartment, washer and dryer. Now, mind you, of course, we could always want more, we could always want better, but essentially, you like your only concern is to be an athlete and to be the best that you can be. That's it. So the people, when you're living in that world, you're thinking that even the people that don't, like the teammates that don't live with you, have to be doing the same thing, you know, like, no, you should be blah, 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 blah. And then when you leave is when you realize, dang, I got to train by myself. Nobody wants to really help me. The only people that want to help me is the people that can directly benefit from either using my name in something or I'm helping them do something. Because, you know, let's face it, it's America. People don't like doing things for free. It's very few far in between that you meet people with a genuine heart that will literally just help you because they love you. I have some in my life, but it's very, very few. Very, very few. And now you're out, you're having to find the time to train, find the facility to train, pay to use that facility if you have to, right? Or if you got paying to have that facility, cool, but now I still have to have a job because I have real life bills. I have a mortgage to pay, I have utilities to pay, I have, you know, I still have my car note and stuff, but like the bigger chunk of things, I still have these bills to pay. And mind you, like I said, we don't get paid a lot, but the bump up to living as a resident, I think, is about maybe like $400 to $800 within that range, depending on how long you've been on the team, how many competitions you've competed in. But the bump up is pretty significant to an athlete that's not living as a resident. You know what I mean? So life is hard. It's hard. Whenever I had, like, one of my teammates like, I'm thinking about leaving, and I'm like, girl, I like, don't get me wrong, I love Oklahoma because of the things that it gives me, that I'm able to focus on my life, but I love being home because I'm home, I'm with my family, I'm with my friends. But being home is hard. It's hard. It's hard going, and you know, I'm a high school coach, so I have, you know, the keys to the high school, so I'll go in on like Sundays and I have the gym to myself. But it's hard when, like, if I don't have my niece to come with me, I'm absolutely by myself getting the job done. You know what I mean? Or it's hard, like, finding a job that is okay with you leaving all of the time. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I know you guys are hiring me, but I travel at least once a month, and I, there's no way around it. You know what I mean? Like, that's my career. So thankfully, uh, Dick Sporting Goods was a partner with the USOPC for a while, and we got paid like we were full time. But we worked part time with them, allowing us to leave whenever we needed to, which worked out perfectly because now I'm getting paid decently enough to where I can pay my bills and I can still leave for camp and not worry about it. You know what I mean? Or, and even before Rio, the managers were awesome. Like, I worked tons and tons of overtime because I was going to be gone for a long time, but it was okay because I was getting paid decent enough to, when I worked that overtime, it was going to cover me from when I was gone. You know what I mean? So now it's like, with programs like that, it helps us. But when you don't have that program, depending on the state that you live in, and even then, because, you know, jobs don't want to pay you what the cost of living is, I'm getting paid what, 8, 9, $10 an hour. I'm busting my tail to be able to play, like, pay my bills. Now I have a tournament. I'm leaving for a week. Who's helping me pay my bills? Nobody. You know what I mean? So now I'm stressing because I'm leaving for a week to go play. But did I save enough? You know, did I do this and this and that? To whereas, you know, the resident athlete, until they got out of being a resident athlete, didn't understand that. And now they're like, well, why? You know? And again, the same thing. You're not a resident athlete. I want to start my family. You know, I see an opportunity to start my family because I'm home. But those that are resident athletes are like, oh my, how could you? You know, we're on this road to gold and you're just taking a break to have a baby. Like, what? So it's just,
So
and
there's
then, like I said, we've come a long way because now we see that. And like, thank God, a lot of the resident athletes after London, they left. And that's when like real life hit them. Like, oh, I have to go drive an hour to like use a gym. You know what I mean? Like, that's allowing me to have court space. Like, so
So there you have
yeah.
it. Basically, that is a big difference, though. I mean, it's so interesting as well because when you're just so focused, I know a lot of athletes do. That's not only volleyball, of course, is in general, especially when you're training for the Olympics. You eat, breathe, live that sport, and then you're like, oh, this is reality, and you have like all the different factors. So I'm happy that you guys are a lot more open-minded, as you said, and like they're more understanding because
Yeah.
you really want the best of both worlds and you really are trying to have And even once again, this goes beyond like if you're a professional athlete, even if you're just professional, like we said before, you're an entrepreneur, or you're living a corporate, you work in a corporate world. Um, you still want the best of both worlds at some point of life. You want your kids
Yeah.
and your job, because that's what we're trained. Like that's what our society's doing. Like I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I mean, kudos to those who want to be, of
Yeah.
course. But like, I want to keep, like, you want to keep, bringing your baby across the world
If
and
I have the
China and
option
things
not to
like
be a
that.
stay-at-home mom and to do whatever I want to, I'm gonna take it.
Exactly, definitely, and not because that doesn't mean I love my baby any less or love my baby anymore. Obviously, so like those
Yeah.
things you have to be like really clear because people, my gosh. Do you think there's like an age limit to when women in sports, quote unquote, should have kids?
Um, I don't think there should be an age limit in sport because, like I said, like I feel like 30s are your prime, and I feel like you can feel the shift and the change happening in your body as you grow older within your sport. Maybe outside, and not even say age limit, because I don't feel like anybody should have, the say so on when someone should and shouldn't have kids. But just taking, your health into account, and the baby's health into account. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think there should be a limit. Same with sports. Like I said, you knowing your body's changing and you know your health. So
And do you think,
just,
even though we both agree that there shouldn't be a limit, do you think there's still a current limit, or just still like an age? Like if you see your teammates, if they reach 40, for example, are they going to be like, okay, that's it?
I don't think so. I,
Well, that's
I
good.
honestly feel like my team is like, whenever I want to have babies, I'm going to have babies.
Well,
Like
that's really good,
literally.
though.
Yeah.
That makes me really happy to hear. To be honest, it's not like, oh, you're 35, out the door you go.
Yeah,
Boom.
no. I don't know. Like, and maybe it could be because playing the sport and we've just seen it all, and people late 50s still playing. I think it's just the culture of sitting volleyball is just like, if you want to have a baby at 20, you can have a baby at 20. If you want to have a baby at 40, you can have it at 40. Nobody's really like, ooh, maybe you shouldn't. They're like, okay, cool. Like, go do it.
That's good. I like that. I had no idea that. I thought, like, for example, there would have been like a little bit more stigma with that, for example. But I'm so happy there isn't.
Yeah, at least not for us.
It
We're
probably is
good.
very different with. I mean, each sport's going to be different. Each sport's going to tell you something different. But at least with you guys, that's good. I'm happy to hear
Yeah,
that. I really am, because like, there's enough pressure and like chaos going on in the world to let it go have another factor in.
seriously.
Like life pressures, I swear.
Seriously.
um and of course, I definitely wanted to ask you, how important is it for you to talk about this particular topic within the sports world?
I think it's important because I think other women should see that they're not alone. Especially if they're playing individual sports, it might be harder to see that somebody else is going through the same thing as you because you're in an individual sport, you're going out there, you're playing tennis, you're by yourself. So whereas at least for me, I have a team, so I can go back and discuss these things with my team and see that I'm not alone. So it's really important just for other women to like see like, hey, I'm a professional athlete. They're going through the same thing and it's okay. Nothing's wrong with me. And to just break any stigmas that are around it that you have to do something by a certain time. Of course, every sport has, like their quads or like their periods where it's optimal to have a baby. Um, but I feel like, ultimately you're gonna weigh the pros and the cons. And maybe that's how it works, outside of sports, people weigh the pros and the cons of having their babies, and it's on you to make that decision. And you shouldn't feel like you have to do, or pressured to do something based on what society's labeling you as. You know what I mean? Like, you're supposed to be a mom by 35. You're supposed to have your house and your husband by 35.
I love that message, of course, because it's some sort of, unity and community. And that's what I always say in every episode of that I can, obviously. That's why I created Go to Fly and Team Flyers, because, I felt alone for a real long time. And then you realize, oh, there's so many of us out here. Why do we feel alone? So you spreading the message of
Yeah.
saying, hey, it's okay. Like we're going through this and we're in this together, and just come and reach out, basically.
Yeah, there's other people just like you.
Exactly, that's a good thing in this particular case because it does help. It really does help one way or another to just like bond within that and be like, okay, I'm not the only one going crazy because I have
Yeah.
this pressure, this thing, or whatever. I love that. And you made a good point as well that like individual sports, of course, I feel like that must be so mentally challenging as well. I want to
Yeah.
say.
Because when you think about like you're by yourself, maybe not so much track because even though track is individual, you still travel as a group. You know what I mean? But like when you think of like tennis, golf, like you're literally out there by
By
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah, like you're the one that's out there competing. You have a team of people, but it's you. You know what I mean? So you can talk to your team, and of course, if they love you, they're going to give you great advice, but they're not going to be able to empathize with you because they're not in the same situation or in your shoes.
It's incredible. Oh my goodness. I mean, sports deserves all the kind of love, I swear. Because you just go through so much. It's not only just like, oh my god, it's so entertaining to watch. Just like as a skill, I'm always in awe. Um, so how can we, as a society, become more accepting of the fact that professional sports women want a family, and it's okay for them to go and live that dream as well?
Oh man. Well, first off, I want to say that we should have paid leave, like maternity leave when you get pregnant, which is just now becoming a thing because before it was not, at least not for us. Um, and I just feel like everything that you give me not having a baby, I want them when I'm pregnant. You know what I mean? Like it's almost kind of like people decrease your value when you're pregnant. Like, oh, well, she's not competing right now, so no, I'm still valuable, and now I just have another life inside of me. You know what I mean? And it almost kind of reminds me of like Black Lives Matter because like so these black athletes can come out and win a medal for you, but they can't say anything else. You know what I mean? So it's like when you get pregnant, it's like, oh, so women can come out and compete for your country and compete for your team and win all kind of accolades. But once they get pregnant, they have to like be put to the side and like shunned and not supported. And now what are we gonna do? You know what I mean? Like people like they act like it's such like a gloomy and doomy thing. Like, oh my god, she got pregnant. What? You know what I mean? Of course, sometimes like if it's before the games, are gonna be like, oh my gosh, like what now? Because anybody would think that. What now? But it's not a bad thing. Like remove the negative stigma from it, let women choose and live life. Like men are able to choose whenever they want to do X, Y, or Z. They can do whatever the heck they want, and people respect it. And people give them the things for them to be successful. Do the same for women. That's it. Do the same. You got pregnant. Okay, here's your maternity leave, and you're still gonna have access to your resources because you're still important. You don't lose value.
It's incredible that people think we lose value just because we have kids. It's like, dude, we're actually bringing more life into this world. We're like, our body just went through an incredible thing. Hello.
Yeah,
you
it's like you
know?
tested my strength as an athlete when you asked me to lift all of these things and you put me in stressful situations to test my resiliency. You don't think I'm getting all of that pushing a baby out of down there? You know what I mean? Like that's
Freak.
like one of the ultimate tests of strength.
It
Somebody put me
really
through
is.
48 hours in labor and now I gotta push this baby out?
We don't get enough credit. I swear we don't. I
Yeah.
I it turned into something very common, obviously. That's just, evolution and all that stuff. Obviously so. But you're like, dude, it's still impressive. Even if you do it through a C-section, which
Yeah.
people are like, oh my god, that's like the weak thing. I'm like, no, 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 no. You're still bringing life into this world. Both are valid.
Yeah. And sometimes huge. My nephew was 10 pounds.
Oh gosh, I feel like
No
that's massive.
cesarean. She pushed him out. Like, you're not gonna tell me my sister's not strong. You're not gonna tell me that. Or resilient.
Exactly.
Like,
I feel like that's my husband. It was like, I was a big boy. And I'm like, oh, I know. I've seen the pictures. I don't know how many pounds he was, but because he's just strongly built. Like you can tell. Like I don't know. It's just kind of hard to
yeah.
explain, but since he was a baby, he was the same thing. And I'm like, and then you see his mom, and she's so tiny, and I'm like, how did you come out of
Oh
you?
God.
And I'm like, he looks at me. He's like, you better watch out with our kids. And I'm like, oh yes, I know. Oh gosh.
My gosh. And
So
you look at them in the babies, they're so small and so cute. Like you're like, wow, you really like came out of like this like a woman. Like
You really did. Like, this is how you're here.
like you're
People,
so small when I look at you like this, but in comparison to getting pushed out, you're huge.
yeah, exactly. Like, people have to remember that. Like, at least for a little bit, you're like, dude, this actually came out of a human being. Like,
Yeah,
this is important. Like, how do we forget that this is how it happens? And then how, like, all
seriously.
your organs just, like, change, like, within you. Like, how do they
They're
know
all
where to...
shifted.
Yes, they all move. And I'm like, how? And then you're still living your life, and you're still getting the nutrients you need. And you're also giving the nutrients to your, like, unborn baby. You're like, how does your
Yeah.
body... That's impressive. We need more props. That's all we need. And
Yeah,
we need,
seriously.
we need more props and a lot more, just like benefits and resources and everything else that comes with that,
Yeah.
because holy moly, props to your sister. She may not be an athlete, but damn.
She gave birth, she sure was an athlete.
Exactly. My goodness. Um, it's hard to believe once more. I feel like, yeah, we've almost been talking for an hour, and it does not feel like it at all.
That flew by.
We I think it was a couple conversations back, I don't remember right now, but it felt so fast and so natural, and through it all I adore talking to you. It's the last
Likewise.
few questions basically. Oh my goodness, you've been with us all month long, and your birthday month, which is very
Yeah.
exciting, is a brand new, like, part of your world and life. um what's your overall message? Any last words you want to say with us here at the Always Believer, for this topic or any topic, like just life?
Yeah. Um, I'm just gonna tell you what I told my mom. Just take pride in what you do and walk in your confidence. Just be proud. Like whether it's big or small, it's still progress. You still progress forward, and nobody else is going to hype you up like the way you hype yourself up, especially knowing all of the work that you put into it. So just take pride and be confident. Don't let anybody disrespect you. Don't let anybody talk down on your craft, regardless of what it is. Um, and yeah, just use your voice.
I love that so much. Thank you so much for being here, and, like, for, like,
Thanks so much for having me. This is
sharing your...
awesome.
I'm so happy. I feel like I'm getting emotional, like, after recording all these. Okay. For the last three questions, I always ask all my guests, and this is your last episode for now. You never know. Like, the door's always open over here at They Always Believer with you, my loves. And just me,
Woo-hoo.
myself, and I'm happy to, like, join you down in Florida or, like, wherever. Just kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, social distance, and we get people. I know, don't come at me
Yeah.
with COVID. Like, we get it after COVID, okay? You know me. Because you get comments, you're like, no, no. Anyways.
Mm-mm. Like I'm there with you. I
It's like,
understood.
good. There you go. That's all I needed. Our final last three questions is three words to describe yourself.
My gosh, only three. Um, let's say energetic, supportive. What's that one word when you like let's say observant. Energetic, supportive, observant.
I like that a lot. I like your pauses and your deep thinking, like, hmm.
Because I was like, there's so many things that I do.
Yes, exactly. Like, how do I summarize them in three? What are you thankful for?
Oh man. I'm thankful for my life, especially in times like these. I'm thankful. Can I say more than one?
Definitely, you can say all that you like.
Yeah, I'm thankful for my life, especially in times like these. I'm thankful that God has helped me through COVID. I've held my contract, so I've gotten paid this entire time. I've had food on the table. I have a place to stay. I've remained healthy. I'm thankful for the progress that my team and I have made throughout COVID and just over the years, and that we're starting now. Well, not now, but we're continuing to accept each other for who we are. and to be respectful. I'm so thankful that I've been giving a platform to do what I love. Like I'm gonna cry. To do what I love, and to be the voice of the people in all aspects. So like being an athlete rep on like several different boards, um, having my nonprofit, being able to speak on Black Lives Matter, being able to speak on behalf of Afro Latinos. I'm just happy that like I have a spot in the world that I can be the loud voice for change in any way possible. And I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my mom and my dad for just always providing for me whenever I needed it, and blessing me enough that I'm here where I am today. My sister, because she's always been so supportive. And we thing about us is that like we might not talk all the time, but she always has my back 110%. And yeah, I'm just thankful for everything that money can't buy. Everything. So like time with my family and my life and my relationship with God and growing stronger with him and relationships that I have with people and weeding out the snakes that don't belong in my life. So yeah, everything that money can't buy, I'm thankful for it.
Thank you very much. It's always one of my favorite questions, of course, and that's why I leave it till the end, because save the best for last. I love being grateful no matter what in life. This is not only like a hashtag or a segment that I do. No, this is like, if you know me, you know that I'm always, I ask people, like my friends randomly, like literally, like, what are you thinking for right now? And they're like, okay. And then they're used to it by now, obviously. But point being, I just feel like
Yeah.
it's something so important, because through the chaos that is life and through like curveballs it throws your way, you're still have so much to be grateful for. And I feel like we need to realize, and the more grateful you are, the more you manifest it, the more you create it, basically, one way or another. So yeah,
Yeah.
very thankful once more to have you here with us.
So glad.
I'm gonna have like an emotional happy cry, I feel like, after this episode, because it means so much to me what you do and what you bring to this world. And the fact that I was able to share it with like my platform, in other words, here with Team Flyer, means a lot. For last, where can we find you? Of course, even though you all know me, I will drop the link down below as always. But where can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Nicolina_Cruz, and Cruz has 3 Z's. Literally all up and down there. It's just my life and volleyball. A link to my not my nonprofit, a link to my blog as well. And then you can find my nonprofit on Instagram at limitless_people_. And that's just everything that we do, fundraising, past events, future events, and the Facebook is linked on there as well. So yeah, follow me. Let's be friends. I answer DMs. Just be respectful. And yeah, I'm just super, super thankful to just share all these things with you and these moments with you, Ariadna.
Yay! So until next time, my love, thank you very much for being here this month, and have a good day, my loves.
You.
Bye.
Bye.